Coming up on this week's episode of Unlocked, IGN's weekly Xbox show, Borderlands 4's release date has moved up. Yes, not delayed, it's been moved earlier. Does this mean that GTA 6 is in fact coming this fall? We'll talk about that coming up on this week's show, along with some talk about FBC Firebreak, the first-person shooter set in the Control universe from Remedy. They've got what seems like a very promising release date. You'll be playing that one soon. Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It's 420 every day in Call of Duty, and they've added a really funny operator. We'll talk about that. Plus, the top 20 selling games in the month of March, including some surprises in there. All that and more coming up on Unlocked.
This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, Sierra 117, and you're listening to Podcast Unlocked, the world's #1 Xbox podcast. Now, finish this fight. Master Chief, out.
What's happening, friends? Welcome to Unlocked. It is IGN's weekly Xbox show. The date, oh my gosh, it's May 1st as you're hearing this, April 30th as we record it. It's episode 691, coming at you here from San Francisco, joined by actually my fellow San Franciscans, Michael Hyam and Miranda Sanchez. Good to see you both.
Hi.
Hi, hello.
Bay Area in the building.
That's right.
Yeah.
Still repping up north here, Northern California. But we are all, the three of us and the whole IGN team, going to be down in Southern California and downtown Los Angeles on June 7th and 8th, and we invite you to join us. This is IGN Live for the second year in a row. Come hang out with us in downtown LA for an exciting live show all weekend while we interview awesome people in the games industry, like Phil Spencer last year, celebrities in entertainment. We're going to host panels and much more. We're also giving away tons of prizes. Seriously, we have a lot. Ask anybody that went last year, and they will tell you that is a very, very true statement. And we'll have playable gaming stations, arcades. That was an unexpected treat last year, was the arcade setup. And also spots to hang out all over the show floor. You can expect to see 2K Sports, Netflix, Arcade 1UP, and many others to make an appearance. Head on over to ign.com/live. Or if you're watching us here on video, just scan the QR code that's on your screen right now to grab your tickets. While you've got your wallet out, now is a great time to grab some amazing deals through Humble, where every purchase helps support charity. So this April, pay just $12 for 8 curated PC games through Humble Choice, including Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered, and Dredge. For $14, you can grab a hand-picked Metroidvania bundle featuring standout titles like Grime, Berserk Boy, and Shantae and the Seven Sirens, or go all in with $28 to unlock the complete Doom and Wolfenstein collections, including all DLC, and that'll also net you a discount on the upcoming Doom: The Dark Ages. As a Choice member, you'll also save up to 20% in the Humble store, including new releases, pre-orders, and big sales. Whether you're supporting the store or whether you're shopping the store, grabbing bundles or subscribing to Choice, every purchase supports a great cause. All right, let's get to it. Miranda, what percentage health are you up to at this point on your health meter?
I'd say like 85%. I still have some ongoing issues that I'm investigating, but day to day, if I'm sitting around, I'm solid, which is great. I can talk, I can speak. Thank you guys again so much for the kind messages from the last episode. I really appreciate your patience as and my voice will come in and out sometimes too, as I've been trying to rest up, but happy to be back in a better, fuller capacity.
Yes, we have plenty to talk about. My Xbox desktop is just filled with sick RPGs back there.
Hell yeah.
Flare Obscura, Oblivion, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and Avowed are all on that row, which is just stupid. Just an embarrassment of RPG riches. But we have some... I promised last week was going to kind of be the end of most of the Oblivion talk. I mean, not that we're not playing it, not that we're not enjoying it, but there are other games to talk about this week. And I wanted to start with Borderlands 4. Before we get into this, so there was a state of play for this. I can't remember. I think it's by the time this airs. But like, where are each of you, Michael, starting with you, like where are you on the on your hype meter? Are you a Borderlands guy?
Borderlands 1 and 2 was huge at the time because I was in like college, high school, and this was a very easy way for me to play co-op. So a co-op shooter with friends. I think by that time we were still kind of like struggling to find multiplayer that wasn't competitive, something that was more co-op, and like we played Halo a lot. But Borderlands kind of 1 and 2, like it was so seamless to jump in a game and play with friends, but also the looter shooter was fairly fresh at the time too. So for us, we got really hooked on that gameplay loop because we hadn't really experienced it before, at least in a shooter sense. So there was some magic to Borderlands 1 and 2. But then I think 3, by the time 3 came around, the industry had like moved on or has like perfected that grind, and Destiny had become that for us. So when 3 came around, I didn't necessarily feel that much attachment to Borderlands 3. I think it was a good game, but I also think that games had moved past Borderlands 3 at the time. Not to take anything away from it, but when I think about Borderlands 4, my hype is, I don't know if I have hype for it, but that's not. Again, I'm not trying to take anything away from the game, but rather I want to wait and see what they are doing this time around. That's really going to hook me, and kind of, can they be a pioneer in the genre again, or at least like put something out that is like the best version of the style of game, because there's so much out there now. And so I'm reserving my hype. I'm keeping an eye on it though. Obviously, like Borderlands, like regardless of what you think of the world, the like Randy Pitchford, the
movie,
the humor, the movie, the humor. Like that's another thing too about Borderlands 3 is like the humor really fell flat for me. So I never really vibed with the humor of Borderlands, but 1 and 2 is like kind of a novelty. So by the time 3 came around, that novelty had worn off.
Yeah. So
what I'm looking at with 4 is, can they still strike a humorous tone that isn't cringy? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's possible. I think again, this is a team that has pioneered the genre, and hopefully they can do it again. But I want to see more before I get hyped about it. But yeah, I'm if anything, I'm going to play it, see what it is, vibe out with friends, because that is at the very least I could expect that from Borderlands.
Yeah. Miranda, how about you? Is this one that you played co-op with your dad or siblings at all?
So I was in I'm actually, I think, about the same age as Michael. So I was also in like end of high school and stuff. Mm-hmm. I played a little bit of it at a friend's house and was not into it at all. So, and also the humor doesn't really hit with me either. The look of it looks cool. My favorite Borderlands game, for context, is Tales from Borderlands. So like that's kind of what I think about it. So all in all, my hype is non-existent. So I don't think I'm going to play this game when it comes out unless I have to for work, basically.
The guys are going to go crazy, Miranda.
Listen, I have teammates. And they can do it. That's the thing. I can lean on other people. I can assign it to other people. So that's kind of where I'm at. If anything, I just like to see people get excited about games coming back. So I just sort of like look to see, it's like, oh, how what's the vibe with the community? Like, how are they feeling about it? Obviously, not every game has to be for everyone, and this one is not for me. So I will be spending my time in September with other games.
Yeah, it's I wish I could say that I'm hyped as hell for this, but I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Miranda. It just, for whatever reason, even though I love first-person shooters, arguably my favorite genre, and I love Diablo, the mix of those two in the form of Borderlands 1 just, for whatever reason, never grabbed me. I've said that on the podcast before, but and like you, my favorite Borderlands by a mile is Tales from the Borderlands, which not only is it my favorite flavor of Borderlands, and I've said this before too, of all the great Telltale games that we got over the years, I honestly, Tales from the Borderlands is I think it's Telltale's best work in terms of structure, story, humor. Like, it just, everything clicked for me with that first season that they did. So I'm not sure if I'll dive into this. I didn't bother with 3. It'll probably depend if other games are out. And that is, in fact, why we're talking about Borderlands 4 and other games being out. So we never see this anymore, but the release date for Borderlands 4 got moved up, not back. At least not yet. There's still a ways to go between now and September. But for the moment, the release date has been moved up. It was originally scheduled for September 23rd, right after my birthday, but it will now release a little before on September 12th. So 11 days earlier. Of course, it's coming to pretty much everything: PC, PS5, Series X and S, and also Switch 2. So they're hitting everything. Now, Randy Pitchford said, everything's going great, actually. In fact, everything is going kind of the best case scenario. This game is awesome. The team is cooking. And so the launch date for Borderlands 4 is changing. We're moving it forward. The launch date is now September 12th. Now, this naturally, everyone's first reaction, mine included, was, oh, this must mean GTA is dropping in October and they're getting out of the way of that. Because Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of 2K, has specifically said, we don't want to put our own two big games like butting heads with each other there. So I am curious what each of you makes of this. For the record, before I pass the baton to Miranda here to start with, Pitchford did deny that this had anything to do with any other game. So take that as you will. Miranda, your thoughts on, is this some sort of GTA hint or not?
Yeah, the quote was literally 0% about any other product's actual theoretical launch date. So I'd like to think that it is anyway. Like, you can say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean you're not lying.
He's also a magician. He's known for sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I could see them just being like, actually, let's just go ahead and move out. Like, everyone's waiting. They're like, we're all holding our breath waiting to see like when this GTA release date's going to happen. And obviously other publishers out there are. But if you share a publisher with GTA, then you have some inside scoop. So like maybe they're like, you know what, actually just with the look at the landscape, and it'll look good on us too to message that this game is looking good, so good that we're like moving our release date to be sooner. Then I think that's kind of a bit of a power move of like showing your confidence, but also maybe a nice way to be like, okay, GTA needs, maybe more time. Maybe it was supposed to be a little bit earlier or something. And that's the thing, right? Like they've already said that GTA is gonna be this year. They've said it. They've said, "Yep, it's gonna happen," and everyone's kind of like, "You sure? Are you sure?" So, like, what I could see potentially if they had an internal date and they're like, "Actually, we need a little bit more time." It's still within this year. It's just a little bit later, and they're like, "All right, let's ship Borderlands." Like that would be my hope at least, because we need a hint, like we're salivating. We want anything.
Mr.
Hyam, are you buying Randy Pitchford's denial here of any? No,
I'm selling. I'm selling. I mean, listen, Randy Pitchford says a lot of things. So, even the quote, like I can hear it in his voice. But a couple things, like maybe he like probably doesn't know one way or the other. He probably, like, if this is the case, he probably just got like an order from above. It's like, hey, can you move Borderlands? What do you think? Is it possible? And he probably was like, yeah, sure, we can do that. And they didn't tell him anything else. They said, like, if you can ship Borderlands earlier, go ahead and do it. We're not going to tell you why. Just go ahead and do it. That's a possibility, I suppose. So maybe that is. But I'm also of the mind that GTA is not coming this year. I'm going, GTA is going to come out this year. And I'm going to die on that hill that it's not. And I'm going to be clowned on. What's up?
I'm with you. I also just do not until there is a concrete date and we're like a month away from that date, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah. And so originally the 23rd, moving up to the 12th. If such is the case, maybe that would give them approximately 2 weeks to a week and a half to get people on board with Borderlands 4. But also at the same time, Borderlands 4 is kind of like, regardless of what you think of it, it's kind of a big deal. And
sure,
I don't know if a week and a half would that could change things. You want to get as many eyes on your game as possible, and maybe that gives them a little bit more breathing room in the case of GTA dropping at the end of September. But one way or the other, I don't know. The drama. I'm here for the drama. Ooh, I can't wait to see. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be playing Borderlands 4 on launch. I don't even know if we're going to be playing GTA this year because I don't think it's coming this year. But one way or the other, I'm like, ooh,
it has to.
So I'm interesting story.
I mean, if I were to believe that this was a GTA 6 related move, my thought is this would indicate like a mid-October release date for GTA.
Yeah.
You know, because if they went from the 23rd up to the 12th, just give it like a month. That would be where I would put my money if we were in Vegas and laying down some odds on this. However, like you, Michael, I still don't think GTA 6 is coming this year. And what I think this is about is, first of all, I do think Randy Pitchford's, I won't just say lying, but I'll just say I don't believe him because I do think it's about another game, but I don't think that game's GTA 6. I think that game is Marathon. And the reason that I say that is because Sony has marketing money behind Borderlands 4. They gave it its own state of play, like they are pushing it. So they are literally invested in the success of Borderlands 4. And so Borderlands 4 was originally due out on September 23rd. Would either of you like to guess at the release date that's been announced for Marathon, a fellow first-person shooter that Sony is putting out? Any guesses?
I looked up Marathon release date, December 21st, 1994. I'm like, whoa, that was the original Marathon that came out.
Not that version, yeah.
Okay, I see right here. I see the release date. So right on the 23rd.
September 23rd, yes, sir. So my thought is that Sony picked up the phone to Randy and or Strauss at 2K and said, hey, come on, we got two first-person shooters here. We're behind your game, but you got to get out of the way of our big new in air quotes for those of you on audio. I'm using heavy air quotes for new IP when I refer to Marathon because it's obviously not new. It's being rebooted, but for all intents and purposes, 99% of players that ever play Marathon, the new one, will have never played the old one. But that's what I think it is. I think it's Randy and 2K doing Sony a solid and not having these two games that Sony's got a lot of money into out on the exact same day. Am I crazy, Michael Hyam?
No, I think that's an astute observation. Because when I don't know, I played some of the Marathon Alpha, and I feel like Marathon, it's going to be fairly content light. So I think that maybe they need a little bit more time to hash things out. So Borderlands would ostensibly be the one to move up. But I can, with Sony behind it, I mean, I can imagine that happening. Like that wouldn't surprise me. And if anything, that would make sense. Xbox could never. They'll just drop both their games on the same week. They don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Sony's over here like giving them time to breathe. But yeah, that would make sense. I mean, because there's probably going to be a lot of crossover between the player bases of both these games. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. But man, I don't know. I personally think they're different enough because obviously Marathon's an extraction shooter and not like a story-based, like typical loot grind shooter, even though it is a loot based. But I mean, like the commitment that it takes to play both a Borderlands and a game like Marathon is going to be, it's kind of like a long-term investment. So yeah, I can imagine like give players an opportunity to try both if this is both in their lane. Rather than dropping them on the same day, like that would on the same exact day is kind of crazy. So yeah, this would be smart.
Miranda, you buying my Marathon theory here?
Yeah, no, that sounds very plausible to me. And as Michael said, the crossover is sort of undeniable, especially since Marathon, you kind of need to team up with people. You don't have to. You can just get random people, but who wants to do that? So if you're grabbing your buddies, you're probably going to say, all right, well, do we want to play Marathon and get in the early when there's a lot of people playing, have a better chance to be better, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
whatever, like if the player count's bigger, you have a better chance of clowning on other people rather than being clowned on.
Yeah.
So, versus Borderlands 4, I think people would potentially pick. I guess it depends on the experience you're looking for, but if you're grabbing your friends, I think I would at least go for Marathon. So it makes sense.
It could be both Marathon and GTA 6. Like it's not a mutually exclusive thing. Like it is possible that it's all of that is happening, and 2K Borderlands is the thing that kind of has to give in that scenario between Marathon and GTA 6. But to me, the Marathon theory makes more sense than the GTA one, especially since, again, Michael and you and I are, and we're not alone in just steadfastly not believing that GTA 6 is coming out this year.
No, I believe.
Listen, if it does come out this year, I'm not going to complain.
Oh no, as long as it's polished, right? It's like,
sure, yeah.
We've talked about that before. That's a big part of the reason I don't believe it's coming out this year is because it just 2K's like the next God knows how many fiscal quarters for Take-Two are literally relying on the success of Grand Theft Auto 6 whenever it is coming out. So it's got to ship in as polished of a state as it can. So 4 and 5 both got delayed after they had, I think one of them had an actual date that then got moved by like 6 months. And one of them, I think, had a window, like a fall or something. I think, 4 moved from fall to spring to what turned out to be April. And then 5, I think, was supposed to be spring and moved to September of 2012.
13.
Wait, 13. Thank you.
Yes, 13.
Anyway, yeah. So I don't see how 6. It's just so big, and it's so, we're a generation of hardware further in. Actually, 2 generations really from 5. So it's not getting any easier to make a game like that. So to land it smoothly and have it be polished is going to require a hell of a lot of time. So we shall see what happens with 6. But in the meantime, you do get, if you're pumped for Borderlands 4, as none of us are on this panel, you will get to play it 11 days early. So that will no doubt make some folks happy. This one makes me happy. This is more my speed, and this is something because this isn't a second job kind of game. It's a multiplayer shooter, first-person shooter. While we're on that genre subject, a first-person shooter multiplayer game that's not live service that you just pop into with friends when you feel like it. Like it's the 360 era all over again, in the Left 4 Dead days or the Halo 2, Halo 3 days. That game is FBC Firebreak, set in the Control universe, of course, Remedy. They have announced their release date. It's going to be out June 17th. That is a month and a half away. It's coming out, of course, on everything, PC, on either Steam or Epic, Series X and Series S, and PS5. And it's going to be $40. So no free to play and thus no microtransaction nonsense. Hopefully, we're just going to get a $40 paid for game that hopefully will be awesome. I haven't played it yet. I did our first look preview, loved what I saw, which I recognize is not the same as actually getting behind the wheel and playing it myself, but it'll be launching. If you have Game Pass, you don't have to pay the $40. It'll be in Game Pass day one, as well as PS Plus too on the PlayStation side. So Miranda, your thoughts on June 17th for this one? Seems like probably about as good a window as you could want for a game like that.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's I think for folks looking for a good summertime with friends, like it's perfect. Honestly, I think even July would have been maybe even better just because you get away from the Switch launch. But who's going to have a Switch? I don't know.
Not me.
Ooh,
I will.
Geez.
I did you guys get a pre-order?
I got one. That was was
Michael,
so
no?
awful.
Nah, I didn't even try, man. I don't.
No.
I talked about it before. I'm traumatized by the shoe game back when I used to collect sneakers, and
yeah, I hear that.
I don't do that kind of thing anymore. But I'll get a Switch when I need to get one. I'll be fine.
I mean, Yeah, mine's mostly for work because, like, honestly, there's not a lot I need to play there when it launches. So, like, so FBC Firebreak coming out when it is on June 17th is perfect. So, we'll be back with my IGN Live. I have time to just, like, settle in. I'm probably going to go get Mitch Dyer and some other friends in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my multiplayer buddies. So,
I really feel great about this release date in terms of the game's chances for success. Because obviously, a game like this, without a player base, there's no game. I mean, thankfully, you don't really need anybody other than just your 1, 2, or 3 friends to play it. So it's not like it's reliant upon an active player base necessarily. But yeah, June 17th just seems like as good a window in this year. Like like I was saying at the top of the show, just with RPGs on my dashboard right now, we've already had so many big games, so many great games this year, and many more are coming, regardless of whether GTA 6 is one of them, that for what is kind of a new IP in the form of FBC Firebreak, I know it's set in the Control universe, but for what is essentially a new thing, it's probably the best case scenario for Remedy to try and get people's attention. I mean, the fact that it's going into Game Pass and PS Plus will only make that easier for people to just jump in and try it. But yeah, June is a heck of a lot better than, say, August, where they probably would have been really up against it trying to get anybody to actually take a look at it. So good for Remedy, and I can't wait to play it. Yeah, I mean, this it is.
Yeah.
Can the 3 of us play this one? Can we do this together?
Go. Let's get
play.
it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm down.
I'm gonna book a meeting like immediately.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's block out some chunk of time that day. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
All right. This next one, I know, we don't typically track Call of Duty seasonal stuff here on Podcast Unlocked, but this one just cracked me up. This is too funny to pass up. Black Ops 6 Season 3 is continuing its line of weed-themed editions with a full-on Seth Rogen operator, which is extra hilarious to me because I'm watching the studio right now. I watched an episode last night. The show's so good. And the show is nothing about Seth Rogen's affinity for marijuana, but he, of course, as a human being, that is very much his calling card. And he is now in Call of Duty as Seth Rogen. So Activision unveiled how the marijuana enthusiast and Hollywood star will join the iconic first-person shooter's string of cameo characters in a blog post on its website. He'll bring his memorable laugh and colorful attire to Call of Duty players as part of the High Art event pass, which is set to roll. Boy, I'm loving all the weed puns. Sure. Whoever wrote this copy, whoever wrote this for IGN, just tip of the cap. Which is set to roll into Black Ops 6 Season 3 Reloaded today, May 1st, as you're hearing this. High Art is available from May 1st to May 15th and has 2 tiers, one free and one premium. You'll miss out on the Rogen operator if you stick with the free pass, which comes with 7 goodies that pay homage to pot in different ways, including a casual ops operator skin. The premium pass, meanwhile, is packed with references to the studio and Superbad star Seth Rogen. There's also the Ha emote, which suggests players will be able to bring the movie maker's iconic giggle to both multiplayer and Warzone. Black Ops 6 spent April celebrating 420 with a variety of cannabis treats. Earlier in the month, other weed-themed operators also appeared in the form of Jay and Silent Bob, which I did not know until I read this story. Also awesome. Totally on board with that. Those 2 came along to Call of Duty on April 10th, allowing fans to run around as either Jason Mewes or Kevin Smith, while adding to the long, ever-growing list of bizarre operators that Call of Duty has added over the years. Michael, what is your reaction to the Seth Rogen operator?
This doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, like, listen, Call of Duty has put in so many celebrities. Like, this is just an extension of that. I mean, obviously, like Jay and Silent Bob were in there. I think Nicki Minaj was in Call of Duty. Like, this isn't even the wild. This is not even close to the wildest thing that Call of Duty has done. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, isn't it crazy that back in 2003, Activision said, you know what, Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, let's make a game just like that. And then it's like the Dominoes meme, just like, oh, let's make a cool, like, honor the troops World War II first-person shooter. Boom, now we have Call of Duty 6 with weed. Like, just a whole season pass of weed. Like,
yeah.
The extension of that is wild, but doesn't surprise me at this point. I mean, Call of Duty keeps doing things like this. So yeah, as kind of an aside, one of my favorite interviews I've ever done as I've been in the games industry was I interviewed Method Man for a voice pack for, I think, was it Infinite Warfare? Yeah, okay. Or whatever. Yeah, it was Infinite Warfare. It was 2016's Call of Duty. Because he did a multiplayer voice pack for it. And it was so funny because I was like, yeah, we could talk about Call of Duty for like 10 minutes, but I want to talk about making a sequel to How High. That is like, growing up, that's like one of my favorite movies. And I love Method Man. Method Man is like legit one of my favorite rappers. I think he's great. He's been great in the movies that he's been in. Him and Redman are like iconic duo in the rap game. But I was talking to him about it. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, because we started talking about other things. And then he was talking to me about how he wanted to return his copy of Battlefield 1. I think Battlefield 1 was the Battlefield game at the time. And he was just like going off on this tangent about how he wasn't messing with Battlefield 1, whatever. And then the PR person on the other side was like, yeah, like when you publish your interview, can you not mention Battlefield and just stay focused on Call of Duty? And then I find out later on, like, when he was talking like to the person next to him, he's like, oh, because I'm with GameSpot. He was like, oh, this isn't GameStop? And I was like, what the hell is going on right now? Still, it was a fantastic interview. Shouts out to my boy Method Man for being in that Call of Duty pack, but also spending time with me to talk about video games and thinking that I was a GameStop representative. Oh, man, that was hilarious. I mean, like, listen, Call of Duty's done some wild things, and I think there have been some moments in which I've really enjoyed that have come out of Call of Duty's wild trajectory since the World War II FPS days.
Yeah, Miranda, your reaction to this latest addition to Call of Duty?
I love Jay and Silent Bob, and also I think it's fun when you get really weird with your cosmetics. The later a game goes on, like the longer a game goes on in its seasons and stuff, just the weirder you get, the better, honestly. It's like, I mean, you just have fun with it. Like, it's been around for so long. Though when I was watching the Blaze Town trailer, yeah. So if you're watching, you can see it right now. I was like, man, someone's mom's gonna be so mad. Like, they're gonna see this and be like, what are you doing? You know? Don't do that. It's like, man, this is a mature game that you let your child play. I mean, not saying like anyone's out there doing it. I could just imagine someone's mom out there just being like livid about this happening. But I think it's really funny. I think, some people out there are gonna really love this, and they deserve to love this.
Yeah, I just tip my cap to Activision here for knowing their audience with the Call of Duty audience. I mean, the Activision marketing team, they know what they're doing here. I mean, it's like, and on kind of on a more like slightly more serious note, I think it's great that we've come so far as a society and on the decriminalization of marijuana in more recent years and legalization of it, where the biggest game on Earth every year until GTA 6 drops once every 14 years or whatever it is, when the biggest game on Earth can just openly celebrate weed and really everybody's fine with it. Like, it's just everybody rolls with it and it's totally fun. So I think this is great. And tip of the cap to the Call of Duty, whatever team is responsible for getting Seth Rogen and Jay and Silent Bob into the game. That is A+ stuff right there. All right, let's talk about games that are selling well. From the month of March, we have the top 20 best-selling games, and Assassin's Creed Shadows, another big game so far this year. That this is one I haven't been able to lay a finger on yet. I haven't had time. Still got a million RPGs that I'm working on, but Shadows debuted to the #1 spot for the month of March in dollar sales. This is according to analytics firm Circana, which reports that Shadows has also, in addition to #1 for March, it is the second best-selling game of the year overall thus far, only one quarter in, trailing only Monster Hunter Wilds, and it's ahead of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It was the best-selling game on Xbox in March, and the second best-selling game on PlayStation and Steam. So a little extra detail from Matt Piscatella from Circana, who says Shadows' launch was the third biggest in Assassin's Creed franchise history in the US, following Assassin's Creed 3, would not have been the one I would guess, and Valhalla. He says it's a great start, so now we'll have to see where it goes from here. And I'll just give you the top 20 real quick and then get the reactions from you guys. Number 1, of course, Shadows, and then MLB The Show 25 at number 2, debuting strong there. Monster Hunter Wilds with a strong second month at number 3. WWE 2K5 debuting at number 4. Split Fiction, new for March. Of course, that came out in early March. Number 5, Black Ops 6. We're just talking about it. That was number 6 for March. Then PGA Tour 2K25, NBA 2K25, Bleach Rebirth of Souls at 9, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at 10. Then the 11 through 20 is Minecraft, just keeps right on going. Grand Theft Auto 5, talk about keeps right on going. EA Sports FC 25, Red Dead 2, a game that came out in 2018, I think.
2018, yeah.
Madden 25, hanging around at number 15. Elden Ring at 16. That's, now again, that game is 3+ years old now.
2+ years.
Wait, 2 or 3? Was it 2022?
Oh, no. It was 3. It was almost 3.
3 or
2 and some change, because I was still at Fanbyte at the time, and that was a long time ago.
Well, it was the end of January of 2022, right? As I recall, with Elden Ring. So anyway,
you can look this up.
It's doing really well still here in March of 2025. And then you had Xenoblade Chronicles X debuting at 17, Suikoden 1 and 2 Remaster, Marvel Spider-Man 2 for PS5 at number 19, and EA Sports College Football at 20. So, Michael, one of those jumped out at you? What are your reactions to that top 20 for March?
Yo, shout out to Bleach Rebirth of Souls, though. You know, the anime sickos, we out here. You know what I'm saying?
It's so old. Like, the show and the manga are super old, but also it's like, how is that so high up? I'm like, dang.
Dude,
really
shouts out to
there.
Ichigo, man.
I will say,
Bleach
I did think about, I love Bleach. So I was like, oh, should I look at this game? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I don't have time.
Oh, yeah. Assassin's Creed being at the top doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think the cultural cachet of Assassin's Creed it's whatever a lot of people like. There's always discourse around Assassin's Creed, especially this one, and for many of the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah.
But regardless of whatever those conversations are, Assassin's Creed still sells extremely well. It has broken containment a long time ago. So like it's one of those games where people who don't really live in necessarily the video game world knows what Assassin's Creed is, and when they see it, they will probably buy it. So Assassin's Creed still has that latch onto like a wider audience. Valhalla at the time, I mean, because that came out during the pandemic at the launch of a new generation console cycle. So it doesn't surprise me that Valhalla is up there with it, because there's all these factors that fit into it. AC3 is kind of crazy though. Like, shouts out to AC3. I think giving it time. That was such a fascinating game, and that was hot off the heels of AC2 Brotherhood Revelation. So
the Ezio trilogy,
that Ezio trilogy. That's when that franchise was I think it peaked. But in terms of notoriety, that's when it was like, oh, AC has broken containment. I said before, that was the point. So like AC3 being one of the best selling, doesn't surprise me. And in the US, like it was about the Revolutionary War. So. Maybe that also helped boost sales in America, I guess. But yeah, so Assassin's Creed is still successful. But one thing is it's the top of the US of the best selling list. But I'm also thinking you could be the best selling game, but how does Ubisoft define success? That's a
lot was riding on this one, right? With all their struggles lately, and they needed this one to be a hit, and it seems like it is. But you're right,
is
we don't
it
have
enough
the
of a hit? Yeah. Is it enough of it? It's like you could be the best selling game, but if there's still high marks that internally they're probably trying to hit that are separate from whatever list it ends up being on. So how that plays out is going to be something we'll see probably throughout the rest of the year. I know Ubisoft is going through some things as a company. Who knows? They branched off alongside with was it Tencent?
I think so. Yeah.
There's some weird stuff going on over there that are going to have implications for the future, and whether or not the sales of AC Shadows kind of influences that direction, who knows? But at least for the time being, people are playing that game, and it doesn't surprise me.
Miranda, anything jump out at you from this top 20 for March?
I guess for AC Shadows, it's just like a nice reminder that not everyone's chronically online and in the or in the same online spaces. So even there was like, as Michael referred to, a lot of like weird drama around AC Shadows, like that people still want to play this game. The only other thing that jumped out was Split Fiction at number 5, which is good to see that doing so well. And then also reminded me that I need to snag my twin at some point so we can finish that game. But yeah.
Oh, you've got to finish it.
I know.
That's all I'm going to say. You have to finish it. I will leave it at that. You've got to.
Yeah, we'll get there. But otherwise, a really solid list. I guess one thing I was also surprised by was to see that Xenoblade was so low, because I felt like there was a lot of folks in the JRPG space that was really excited to see that come back. But just good to know, I guess.
I'm a little surprised that there being 3 sports games in the top. If we're counting WWE as a sport, actually that would mean 4 if we're counting I know it's like sports entertainment. I'm counting it as a sports game. 4 sports games in the top 10 for March. I would not have guessed that if you just said, "Hey Ryan, guess how many sports games are in the top 10 sales for March." I'd have, I guess I would have figured that MLB The Show would be in there. I didn't think it would be at number 2, but it's good for Sony San Diego because they make a great baseball sim every year. Happy for them. And of course, sadly, we don't get it on Game Pass anymore. I guess that was kind of a limited time deal that MLB and Sony and Microsoft set up, but still an excellent baseball game. But yeah, MLB, WWE, PGA Tour, and NBA 2K all in the top 25. That jumped out at me, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised at this point, but Minecraft and GTA 5 at 11 and 12, like Minecraft's, correct me if I'm wrong, Minecraft's already the best selling game of all time, right?
Oh yeah.
I believe that's true. Yes.
So it just, who's still buying it? Like, I guess
that movie did numbers, man.
You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Although wait, no, the movie came out in April. This is the March sales list.
It was getting hype for the movie.
I guess the hype, the run up. But yeah, like Minecraft still moving plenty of units, like just outside the top 10, and GTA 5 just adding to is GTA 5 now it's the second best selling game of all time, I think.
Yes. I believe so.
Like it passed Tetris or something.
Yeah, I looked this up not too long ago. I think it's either 2 or 3. It's one of the top 3.
So just unreal that those 2 games. It's not like they're 19 and 20, like barely clinging to the top 20. No, they're 10 and 11, or 11 and 12, I should say. So that's pretty impressive. And Red Dead as well. I would not have guessed that Red Dead, as great as it is, would still be on the top 20 again. Almost, what are we at? 7, about coming up on 7 years for that one. So
don't say that, man.
Big stuff.
All right, back. I'm gonna be a cowboy again.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along here. Speaking of awesome sales, Michael, game you reviewed for IGN, you're calling it your game of the year so far. We're only a third of the way into the year, but Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which I'm only at the end of the prologue, but yep, it's awesome so far. My daughter was sitting with me, just watching it.
Oh no.
And she was like, just the prologue, and she was like, I've watched this for 10 minutes and I'm already like riveted. And she had no idea she had less of an idea of what was going on than I did. Like I kind of knew the basic setup of it coming in. And so I had to explain the expeditions and the countdown thing with the priestess or whatever her name is.
The paintress. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 has sold over 1 million copies already, as announced by their publisher, Kepler Interactive. in 24 hours, they'd announced they hit 500K, and now it's already doubled that. 3 days after launch, they said, after 3 days, 1 million copies sold. They said, the studio says, thank you for believing in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And man, this is even more impressive to me for two reasons. Three reasons. One, it launched against Oblivion. Two, it's a new IP, and it's hard for any new IP to get traction anymore, especially one from, sorry, Kepler, like a smaller publisher. Like, it's not like Clair Obscur had this mega marketing budget where it was being like pushed as like ads on the side of buses in your city or anything like that. Like, no, it didn't have that. So that the Oblivion factor, the new IP factor, and the fact that it launched, it's available on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. So you don't have to buy it. You can still play it, and yet it's still sold 1 million copies. So Michael, you got to be feeling good for that development team right now.
Yeah, it's nice to see that, they put out an amazing game and that people are receptive to it, because, there's a lot of conversations about, can you put out a turn-based RPG these days and find success? And, success looks different for different companies. I do want to shout out my boy Eric Van Allen, who wrote a story on IGN, kind of framing that conversation that, because there's like, it kind of got away from, it's like, oh, why doesn't Square Enix do turn-based RPGs? Well, do these kinds of games scale? What are the conversations like? What are they trying to do? It's a very complex conversation. But what I gather from this is that there is still an appetite for turn-based games. And I think that, there are a lot of people who don't necessarily they're not sickos like me who are like, oh my God, turn-based RPG, let's go. They're like, oh, this game looks interesting. Let me see what it is. Oh no, I actually like this turn-based combat system. It's cool. And then they kind of follow along through that, But this is cool to see because, a relatively smaller team, the core team over at Sandfall is about 30 people, but they have a lot more support with other aspects of the game. Of course, it's not just 30 people building this from the ground up. There's a lot of support along the way, but this core idea of like a relatively smaller team honing in, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it extremely well. We're going to put it out, see if we can find an audience, and finding that kind of success despite the various factors. Like, that's cool to see. And I hope that others will look at this and be like, oh, it is possible to find success on this scale. 1 million copies is kind of wild for, like I said, like a smaller team, new IP. I know that when Persona 5 came out, this was, Persona 4 was huge for its time, but that was like, P5 is when that series kind of hit kind of mass market. And I remember when they hit 2 million sales, that was kind of a big deal that Persona had sold 2 million copies. So for, the landscape has changed, but for Clair Obscur to hit 1 million in 3 days, like, oh, they like, this is like kind of, they have momentum. And whether or not you want to call it AA or whatever moniker you want to put on this, coming out as a $50 game, I want to see more stuff like this, more, projects that aren't elongated 6, 7, 8 year development cycles that are selling at $80. Like, there's room for that. There's, different companies are going to invest in that kind of development cycle, but there's also room for things like this. And I think it's a really interesting year where we're getting a lot of smaller size games that aren't full priced. Marathon coming out at $40, FBC Firebreak being $40, South of Midnight being $40, and then this coming out at $50, where they're not games that are going to consume your life necessarily. And, experience a thing, get in, get out, get a full experience off of something that isn't full priced, and kind of look at it and be like, oh, wow, that was really satisfying. That was really well done. So outside of, a turn-based RPG from a new studio coming out and finding success, beyond that, I just hope that it kind of shows that, if you invest in smaller projects like this, there's still a level of success you can find, an audience you could still find. So yeah, shouts out to Sandfall. I mean, of course, they made an amazing game, and I hope this success kind of puts them in a position to kind of, do their next thing with a level of kind of, having that sort of comfort or having the resources and building off of what they've already built with Expedition 33. So whatever comes next and however long we'll have to wait for it, I hope this sets them up really well.
Miranda, Your thoughts on this success here?
Yeah. This game isn't short or small. So it's like the fact that it's $50 is still honestly kind of absurd. This game is at least 40 hours and not a lot more if you do everything. And so I went in this be like, oh, okay, so it's a little bit more focused. But it's like, it is not like there's a lot to do. There's a lot of really cool secrets. And I'm still just astounded by what they've already accomplished with where I'm at. I was going to say that kind of on the turn-based JRPG or RPG talk, like when you think about turn-based RPGs, the first few that come to mind for me, it's like Pokemon, it's Persona, and then it's a bunch of old games. That's kind of like my first gut, or like it's like an indie thing. And a lot of times when I look at those games, they are very like anime art style or in that kind of like a Japanese setting or something. And I don't think that necessarily appeals to everybody. Like not everyone wants to play as a high schooler, which is very understandable. When it comes to like Persona or like even with Metaphor, it still has like the Atlas style. So I think that one thing that's really caught up with Expedition 33 is that, you know, when we saw the first reactions to when this was announced was that like, this looks so cool. Like aesthetically, it's just very different from what we've gotten from a lot of the big JRPGs or turn-based RPGs generally. So I think that's something that really appeals to people is when we take something that's like kind of a known quantity for other regions and just kind of adapt it in a different way. And that I think just makes it more appealing to people who don't necessarily want the other thing that's kind of more common. And so that's sort of what, kind of to your point, Michael, people like, oh, I guess I'll try this out. And turns out I do like turn-based. Oh, the other one I was thinking of was Honkai Star Rail, which of course is very anime, very, you know, cute characters and stuff. And so I think this just having that different art style really lends to having other people kind of dip into it a bit. Just because, again, I get it. Like, if you don't want to go through a high school teenager, I still recommend you play Persona, though. It's fantastic. So
yeah. To give a little context. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No. Yeah.
For a little context in terms of other turn-based RPGs in recent memory, Metaphor on a hit video game website, IGN.com, we had a story that Metaphor sold 1 million copies on its release day. And I think a week of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is also a turn-based RPG, they also sold 1 million copies in their launch week. So Claire Obscura is punching with its fellow turn-based RPGs in that way. So in a way, it's got like, hey, you have Sega and Atlas backing those games. Those are franchises that are established. Well, Metaphor is a new franchise, but of course, everyone recognizes it as the extension of the Persona team. So for Sandfall to be punching at the same level as some of those established franchises that I know and love, that's really cool to see. Like they're up there. They're competing with some of the best on their first shot, and that's that's cool to see.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's just others can come into this space and do their own take on it, and there is an interest and a hunger for it as well. It's like, of course, I'm going to keep playing every Persona. Of course, I'm going to play all of Atlas's turn-based, but also I would not mind other things, like other settings, other takes on this.
I also think that this is good news. The success of this game out of the gate is good news for PlayStation Plus and Game Pass as well, because if this will send a signal to other developers and publishers that Microsoft and Sony talk to, and they can now say, Microsoft and Sony can now say like, hey, look, you know, if you get your game, launch your game with us in our service, it's not going to necessarily take away from sales. It'll actually maybe help your momentum and help raise more awareness. So this could, in a roundabout way, help lead to more games. Maybe not necessarily the kind of classic quote unquote AAA games, but like you were saying, Michael, these sort of more like really promising, strong AA games that do need a little extra help getting that extra attention. You know, maybe this helps us see more of those in Game Pass on day one. So that could be a win for gamers out of this as well. All right, we've got one more story, and then I believe, Michael, we have a special treat. Are we throwing to that at the end? Yes?
Yes, we will.
So we'll talk about that in a second. But we're going to end we're going to leave you with a good thing, which is the present that Michael has for you. It's Outer Worlds 2 related. I'll give you that little hint.
Yes.
But we're going to, before we do that, let's unfortunately report on more crappy industry news. It's been mostly all fun, good news up to this point, but we didn't want to just ignore this week because this is a very notable story. EA has canceled another incubation project at Respawn and simultaneously laid off a number of folks, 100 plus at Respawn, 300 total at the company. So in a post, Respawn announced it has, quote, made the decision to step away from 2 early stage incubation projects and make some targeted team adjustments across Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi, end quote. One of these canceled incubations project is the same one already reported on back in March. The other, Bloomberg reports, was an extraction shooter set in the Titanfall universe. So yes, that's me getting ready to slam my head on the nearest desk at the thought of another so close yet so far with Titanfall. It was codenamed R7, according to Bloomberg. Quote, these decisions aren't easy, and we are deeply grateful to every teammate affected. Their creativity and contributions have helped build Respawn into what it is today. We're offering meaningful support to those impacted, including exploring new opportunities within EA, end quote. And furthering our reporting here from the great Rebecca Valentine at IGN. IGN understands that roughly 100 individuals are affected by the changes, including a mix of developers, publishing, and QA workers on Apex, as well as smaller groups of individuals on the Jedi team and on the incubation projects. IGN also understands that at least some, though not all, of the developers from the incubation project reported on in March have already been moved to work on Iron Man at EA Motive, Battlefield, and other projects. Internally at Respawn, work will continue on Apex Legends, as well as the game's next iteration, plus the next entry into the Star Wars Jedi franchise and support on the upcoming Bit Reactor Star Wars game, Zero Company, which got announced at Celebration about a week ago. EA declined to say whether or not any of the other incubation projects are currently in the works. So, Michael, we're just never... Titanfall, they're just going to keep just toying. It's never going to happen, is it?
This is an historic fumble in video games, man. Like, not just like, oh, Titanfall and like the kind of the hunger for a Titanfall game. And this is like, I feel like this is like the 20th time we've heard of a Titanfall project that got canned. But more broadly, it is almost stunning to consistently see EA mishandle its workforce, its people, and layoff after layoff across the industry. It's still, to this day, is not ending. There's more and more layoffs, and there's all these projects that EA kind of starts up and ends up canning or not supporting, and then people get laid off, they lose their jobs, and they don't get, it's one of those things, they like downsize. There's nowhere really for a lot of these people to go as jobs diminish and projects get cut off. It's almost stunning how much they're not just fumbling a Titanfall. I mean, I think, you don't want to focus on the wrong things. Overall, it's just like you're not supporting game development in the way that you should be. And, the people at the ground level are the ones who lose their jobs because of decisions and fumbles that people on higher up make. And they don't face any consequences. It's the people at the ground level that face all the consequences. And like a lot of these decisions are not made by them. So I don't know. I think in recent times, EA as a publishing company, as a big company, this is a historical fuck up for them in these past couple of years. And it's a goddamn bummer to see. It feels like month after month, year after year, they're consistently treating their projects and their teams like this. So maybe it's a bummer that we don't get a Titanfall game, but it's also a bummer that people are losing jobs across the industry.
Yeah, I asked this just sort of to the sky of like, are you telling me that FIFA Ultimate Team, Madden Ultimate Team don't make enough money that we can't do this Titanfall thing? Like, really? And then, you read about the executive compensation packages that and EA is hardly alone in that, by the way. That is a thing everywhere, not just in the games industry. But yeah, it's so frustrating. Miranda, I mean, what can we say, right?
Yeah, it's an obvious, like, an awful recurring story. Like, we keep hearing about layoffs, and it's kind of sometimes feels like it slows down, then it starts picking back up again. And I think obviously, and a worry I've seen shared by a lot of developers online and stuff is like the lack of stability. Like, there's no promise that no matter how well your team is doing or your game's doing, that you can still get laid off. And like that's a terrible environment for folks working at these big companies. And there are obviously other studios and other places that are growing in different ways, but at these legacy companies, we have a certain expectation. I think it's fair for us as a community to have an expectation of them to be able to treat their employees properly and to make sure that they're managing on high, like, properly, and they're not. So I think it's a very stressful thing to keep saying, and I just hope that everyone lands on their feet, as always, which it's hard to say. It's like, again, like it just keeps happening, and that's the recurring thing. And as Michael said, like, it is a big bummer for us to not see more Titanfall. Like, of course, selfishly, it's like, I would love to see more Titanfall. I want more Titanfall. I think that's like a shared sentiment among everyone who loves first-person shooters. But more importantly, it's like, I'd like to also see, worker stability at these developers that, are supposed to be promising these big, grand things and want us to be excited about their games. But it's, we want to be, but it's like when the people calling the shots are like mistreating their employees, it's kind of hard to be sometimes.
The fact that allegedly, I have trouble believing it, but the fact that supposedly Beyond Good and Evil 2 remains in active development and Titanfall 3 isn't in development is just, I don't understand how we live in that world. I want to go, like, there's a million different things you might want to do if you could hop in a time machine just to go make some like butterfly effect change in the games industry in the past. But one of the ways I would like to use the game industry time machine would be to go back, and this is assuming I had some sort of power to change things, and just make it so that Titanfall 2 doesn't come out immediately between Battlefield and Call of Duty. Like, move it, whether it's like 3-4 months later into out of October and into March, or whether it's like move it up to September, or like, I would love to see, and then I get back in my time machine and I come back here to 2025 with you guys, and then I have to check and see, like, okay, when did Titanfall 3 come out? Because guess what? It probably would have come out. It would have gotten made, but I don't have that time machine. So it is what it is. But yeah, I appreciate EA saying that they're trying to find spots within the company for the affected people. And I hope that most, if not all, those people were able to find something either still within EA or somewhere else. But it's just, there's a lot of talent out there. And maybe a Kepler Interactive comes and starts a new team with there's so much talent available on the market. And maybe in a few years we get another Claire Obscure like new awesome thing that a small to medium sized publisher is willing to incubate and nurture and support. All right. We can't end on a lousy note. So Michael Hyam, would you like to share with the audience the parting gift that you've brought them as our Outer Worlds 2 IGN First has come to a close here?
Yeah, first off, I want to shout out everyone who helped put all the IGN First coverage together. Ryan has helped coordinate a lot of this content, but in terms of the video content, Tayo, Red going down to Obsidian to film with me, and then folks like Christel Padre, Chelsea Miller, Patrick Coughlin, all helping contribute, and Mike Concepcion putting these videos together, and it's been a lot of work. Let me tell you that much. So if you haven't checked out our interviews, we have 6 of them on site and on YouTube, covering all different aspects of the Outer Worlds 2. And to top it all off, I also have a preview because our interviews are more like, okay, let's ask questions, let's dig into the game, get some details from the developers themselves, and then I also have a final preview, the first preview technically, where I kind of give my take, my perception on everything that I saw. So that is going to be up by the time you're hearing this. And as a parting gift for this podcast, an Unlocked exclusive, I sat down with Matt Singh and Brandon Adler, 2 of the top directors for the game, and we just kind of did a little bit of a post-mortem, kind of looked back at all the things we talked about, answered some of the questions that we've been seeing in the comments as well, because I know that as we put out this coverage, a lot of folks have questions about other things. There are things that they're not able to share quite yet, but I do kind of poke and prod at them, trying to get a little extra out of them, and they were good sports about it. And it was a really fun conversation, and you could tell I was tired as hell in that interview, but it always lifts my spirits to talk to developers about their game. They're putting a lot of passion, a lot of work into these things, and they're excited to share these things. And they can only share so much, as I said. But here's a little extra here on Unlocked to talk about the Outer Worlds 2, and I'm really excited for all y'all to tune in on that conversation that you're going to hear in a minute.
In fact, right now, enjoy.
Yes.
Welcome to a special segment for Unlocked. I'm your boy, Michael Hyam. You know me. You see me on many episodes at this point. We kicked Ryan McCaffrey out, and I've took over the reins for this segment because I have been covering the Outer Worlds 2 with our IGN first, and I am joined by Brandon Adler, game director, and Matt Singh, design director. Say what's up to the people out there, man.
Hello, people.
Yeah, if y'all been if y'all have been watching our IGN First coverage, you've seen them on many, many videos talking about all the new gameplay systems, the way they're building out the game. But here we're just going to kick it, kind of catch up on a few things, address any other questions we may have in retrospect now that we've kind of put out all of our videos. And we've been paying attention to the comments too. So we might pull some things from there, things y'all been curious about. But first off, now that y'all been able to show the Outer Worlds 2 to a much broader audience and, putting gameplay out there, talking about a lot of the intricacies and the nuances of what you're doing with this game. How are y'all feeling about that stuff now?
I think it's great. The biggest thing for us, the thing that I was kind of just most worried about as we were going into this whole thing is just letting players know, like, this is a for real big boy RPG. We put like a lot of effort into making the RPG systems kind of really sing. And I think that those seem to be the articles that got the most engagement as well. And like people seem to be like extremely happy with that. I loved like reading through the comments. There's lots of questions there that, you kind of mentioned of like, well, like, how are they doing this? Or are they going to try something like this? It's been really great because I think that really connected with people. And that was so important to me when we were kind of starting this whole endeavor.
Yeah, I've been excited too. I mean, when we're making the game, we're making it for such a long time. We're looking at, hey, how can we improve the second game in key areas that we think are really meaningful? And you don't always necessarily know, is that the right thing that the audience is going to key into? And, putting this stuff out, the best thing I've seen from it is, hey, the fans that are checking it out want the same things that we were already keying into and really think is important to level up from the first game to the second. So I think what we're giving is really what people have been responding to. It's really cool to see people's responses to things like the deeper RPG systems we're trying to put in, things like our changes to flaws people are really resonating with. And we think, hopefully we've got a lot of stuff we haven't been able to show yet that people are going to think super cool when they get to play the game.
Yeah. I think I'm going to straight up address this question up front. You could share as much as you're able to share, but looking through the comments, a lot of people are asking about a third person mode. Is there going to be a third person viewpoint like an Avowed or like other like the Fallouts? Is that something y'all are considering?
Yeah, I mean, everybody is super hyped about that kind of stuff, and we'll probably have more information about all that stuff a little bit later on.
Okay, cool. Just want to address the elephant in the room.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, yep, yeah. This, I can understand. I mean, people love third person in these style of games, and for what it's worth, we hear that, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about later.
Although I do have to say, unfortunately, we did try second person, and it just wasn't going to work, so we did end up cutting that.
What does that? What would that even mean?
You can blame Matt then for the lack of second person. Somebody telling you about the game, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
although
I think
for a fee, I will come and walk you through the game if you would like. I'll be your second person.
Have someone play it for you, but you direct them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, that's less than ideal, but hey, maybe you implement that as a flaw.
Yeah, second person. There you go. So I love it, man. You're just dropping all of these flaw bombs all over the place. I love it, man.
I think we need to bring Michael in for the next game.
Right? Yeah, you're gonna be the flaw consultant.
Oh man, hey, I got some ideas, and a lot of folks out there also have ideas themselves. But I think one of the things I noticed when, specifically with the flaws video, is you are kind of playing with a lot of different mechanics. From that perspective, can you speak to how finalized some of those pieces are in terms of what you were able to show? Are you leaving some room for tweaks? Are you still kind of fine-tuning some of the ideas that you're working with? Like, where are you at in terms of like finalizing the finer mechanics of the game?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the home stretch, right? We've got most everything locked down. But what I will say is, let's just jump over to flaws, for example. Even as of last week, somebody had a cool idea for something. Usually what happens is we're like, man, there's a problem that's happening in the game, or there's a play style that we're seeing. And they're like, wouldn't it be awesome if we did this thing? And a lot of times we shut that stuff down, like, that's not right for it or whatever. But we've been going through a lot of play tests, and so we're watching people and how they're playing. And we had a big discussion, like, hey, what'd be fun is to have a flaw that does, well, I can't really talk about it right now. But again, then we all sit around and we're like, yeah, that's awesome. So even though our flaws are technically locked and we're kind of finished with the gameplay, for little things like that, where we can add in a flaw or a perk, or kind of make some adjustments on that stuff. We're still doing those kind of tweaks even as we're kind of closing stuff down.
Yeah, there might be a couple key opportunities we've got.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the reception to flaws in particular was went over really well. I think I said as much as when I went down there and talked to y'all that like Outer Worlds 1, the idea of flaws, that's the way it was implemented was pretty innovative, I would say. And it kind of plays off of things that we've seen in other RPGs of that style. But now it feels like it's taking a look at things in a very unconventional way. And I think that's the impression I got now that I look back at a lot of the conversations and the videos we put up, is that there are a lot of unconventional things about the Outer Worlds 2 that, and some of it we haven't been able to show quite yet, just because, things are still in the works. And I think that's kind of resonating with people. I mean, it resonated with me when I saw what y'all had ready to show. So yeah, I often describe, and we talked about this too, where Outer Worlds 1 felt like setting a foundation, and then 2 feels like a fully realized vision of that. So, like, is that fair to say? Because I think a lot of people share that sentiment too, where it's like, hey, we liked Outer Worlds 1, or maybe they didn't vibe with it, but they saw like what y'all were trying to do, but they're looking at the second one like, okay, what's different this time around? How are they pushing the boundaries this time around? And I think those unconventional ways in which you can play the game is kind of one of the things that I'm very much paying attention to. So, yeah, I know y'all talked about it in the various videos, but in terms of incorporating a lot of those unconventional play styles and mechanics, like, yeah, how are y'all feeling about that stuff now that people have seen it?
I think it's great. Do you want to go, Matt?
No, go for it.
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. Again, like that's just kind of an important thing to us as we started this whole thing. Even before the Outer Worlds 1 came out, myself, Matt, a few other people, we ended up doing like breakdowns of the game itself and going like, all right, what do we think is going to resonate with folks? What do we think they're going to have some issues with? What are things that we wanted to do in the Outer Worlds 1, but maybe we didn't have the time or a number of people to be able to kind of pull some of that stuff off. And so we made a gigantic list of things. And again, at the top of the list is for us is always going to be kind of coming back to the RPG stuff that is a little bit deeper and can kind of combo a little bit more and just make really fun builds. That's always been a big thing, right? Is you're having the most fun when you're playing the game when you're able to like take your equipment and your different character build stuff and the choices you've made in the game and combine those together to make a really unique experience. That's why something like Flaws is so great, right? Is because it just layers on top of that stuff. It gives you another vector to kind of really express your character and who you are and how you're role playing the game. And so again, watching people look at our videos, write these responses, and keying in on the things that were just so important to us as we're going through all this whole thing. It was affirming. I was like, yeah, we're on the right track. That we did some really good stuff. And honestly, I can't wait to really show everybody all the stuff because we talked to you about a lot of things, when we're doing the IGN first. But it's just scratching the surface, man. Like all the stuff we showed you is almost nothing compared to the mountain of RPG that we have to really show. Like
Sure.
I can't even go over the number of different equipments and armors that are all just really unique and different. You can use that to kind of build your stuff. You guys have only seen a handful of these things, but again, over the next couple of months, we're going to really be showing that off. So I'm really excited that people are going to see, man, this is really deep, and this goes and allows us to just again really create these fun experiences and these worlds to explore.
Yeah, I'll just say I
Cool.
think you hit on it when you said like, hey, the Outer Worlds 1 is a foundation that we have to now work from. And we spent a lot of time just saying, hey, how do we want to plus that? How do we want to fully realize that? And a lot of that was expand and deepen, right? Expand out the worlds and deepen the RPG systems in meaningful ways. And that's where a lot of our focus has been. I think it shows.
Cool, yeah. And off of that, I guess I was kind of thinking about when we talked about how you reworked the RPG character building aspects to it when it comes to skills and perks and traits, things like that. One thing is, I think, was a lot of people had questions about was like you've condensed the skills and talked about how you are making those skills a lot more distinct to where investing in those will have more tangible impacts on your playstyle, on how your character functions more so than the previous game. And so you've taken away attributes and kind of folded out into skills and then made them more distinct. And I think there were some questions about like, oh, in the process of condensing that kind of aspect to, I guess, more or less the hard RPG mechanics, people were like, how are they handling depth in terms of RPG, like the role playing aspect to the game? How is that going to deepen the experience if they're condensing things? And the way I've explained it is like that, is where it's like, oh, okay, cool. These investments are going to matter more. And you kind of, that was an ongoing theme of our discussions. So would you want to like be able to talk through that a little bit more? So folks like have a good grasp of like, oh, okay, like this is how refocusing actually does build on greater depth.
Yeah, so one of the pillars of the game is impactful experiences. We talked about it a lot very early on. We just like, all right, how do we get that from everything, right? And so when we're looking at our character builds and our character creation and really looking at things like our attributes and our skills, condensing that down, it can seem like, oh my gosh, that's simplifying things, but that's actually not what's going on. What it is potentially removing additional skills that were kind of just repeating the same things over and over. So really kind of pulling those things together, but then making each point in those things actually matter a whole lot. Like one of the things that we had talked about very early on was that it's very frustrating when you're leveling yourself up in an RPG and you put some points into stuff and your character feels the exact same as before because, something is raised 1, 2, 3%. And it's like, as a player, you can't actually feel that. You can feel that maybe over like 10 levels, but over one level, you're not really feeling that. And it was like, well, how do we get that back? How do we get that back where somebody, when they're leveling up, they're excited to level up because they know when they put these points into things, they're going to feel it immediately. Or for us, tying perks into the skills is a huge part of that, right? So like, sometimes you might be like, okay, well, like I'm going to put a point into the skill because I want to unlock this other level of perks. And you know that like I have a perk to spend, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab this awesome perk, and that's going to be a massive gameplay change in terms of how I'm playing the game. So that's how we really kind of viewed that stuff is, yeah, we're condensing it down, but we're making each of those points matter a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, we want the players' decisions at each level up to really matter in terms of building their character out. Brandon kind of hit on it, but like it's less interesting, at least from our perspective, to say like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep dumping point after point, 20 levels into a single skill, and that's my progression. That's not really the depth that we're looking for. We're really looking for what are interesting decisions the player has to make, and how is that going to meaningfully change their build over time. And so we did put a lot of more focus into things like perks. Heck, we're close to 100 perks right now.
Yeah, we keep growing.
And we still keep adding in little bits where we're like, oh, you know what? This build really could use one or two extra little things at this level. Cool. Let's figure something out and slot that in, because that's where a lot of that meaningful choice is in terms of how you progress that character. You're getting big bonuses for each stat you put in, yes, but that also just unlocks your ability, your perk space to have interesting choices, and different choices for minor build differences. Like if you might be a stealthy character, but that's different if you want to be an alpha strike person from distance, or if you want to go in and stab people nearby, or if you want to look at awareness and try and optimize for that. So we have different choices in there for those different players to kind of hone their build on things that they might want.
Okay. That reminds me, actually. So we kind of made a big deal about it when we talked about it, about how there's no respec past the introductory sequence. And there's a lot of comments about that, so I want to give you all an opportunity to at least address the room, more or less. But it is interesting, though, as we are talking about how you're revamping the system, making these choices more impactful, and also telling a player, like, hey, think about how you want to invest in your character build and pay closer attention to how these systems work. So respec is something that, as much as you're able to say, is that something you're not going to budge on?
Yeah, I'm not going to budge on that.
Okay.
But there's good reasons for this, right? Like it's not, these aren't decisions that are just flippant decisions that we're making. We're choosing to either remove something or change something. Just to be upfront and just talk about it, the things that are very, very, very important to me is that your choices truly matter, and we say that a lot when we talk about RPGs, and I'm sure you've heard other RPG makers say the same thing. But I feel if you allow players to constantly change their decisions on that, it really lessens the impact of their choice. Then it's not an actual choice in your character build. You're not actually building a specific type of character and growing that over the course of the game. You're leveling yourself up, and you can kind of, in one encounter, you can be a devilish rogue that can, smooth talk their way out of something, and then you can completely flip everything to be, well, no, actually, I'm Rambo that focuses on explosives because, I found this thing. And that's just... No, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's not the kind of experience that I want to give to players. I want them to be able to really attach to what they're doing. I want them to care about their characters. I want them to really truly care about the character builds that they're making and the fun that they're having. I want them to invest in that. In the same way that, I was telling Matt the other day when we were talking, like, in the same way I wouldn't let you respec your story choices. Like, these are choices you've made. Would I allow you to go back in time and say, well, instead of that choice in the conversation, actually, I made this one, and so my entire game is now different? Like, no, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's a choice you made, and there's consequences to that, and there's consequences to build stuff. Like, you choose, for example, to take a flaw. We're very clear with people, hey, man, this is a permanent change, so, like, be careful about what you're doing here. But, like, again, this flaw, we made sure that there's a lot of positives to that as well. It's not necessarily like you're getting a bunch of bad stuff. It's cool that the direction in which you're taking your character is now in this way. And again, we want to make sure that we kind of respect the player's time and respect the player's choices, and really, again, respect their story and allow them to tell their story. And so that's why things like the respec, things like allowing you to maybe remove a flaw, or again, any major choice, being allow players to either remove that or negate that in some way, is just going to be antithetical to how I view RPGs. And so for the Outer Worlds 2, that's not something we're going to be doing.
Matt, anything to share on that regard?
Just say that I think it's, we talked about for flaws, this philosophy of trying to lean into a play style, lean into your build. The way I look at the decision to not have respec is similar, right? We're asking the player again to kind of look at the landscape there of your choices that you can make, and then lean in and kind of see where that lies and what story that's going to produce for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's a tricky part too, because I'm indecisive as hell, man.
Sure.
But I think that in games that don't allow respec, I do think it kind of like, in retrospect, it pushed me to be more decisive. And not just that, it's like if I make a wrong decision, and now the onus is on me to adapt. And I like what you said, Brandon, about how like it's not right or wrong. It's just like that's the kind of experience that you want to build in this particular game. You know, other games will have respec, and I may hit it, I may not. So that is interesting, and I'm curious how that's going to play out once more and more people kind of poke and prod at the systems here. It kind of touches on. Yeah, I know we were not able to talk about story details. That's not necessarily what we were able to talk about, at least currently. But on the point of choices mattering, I know that we kind of offhand talked a little bit about how quest lines adapt to the choices you make, even if you're doing like unconventional things or going down a specific route.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we had conversations about how you're able to kind of like contain it and make sure that the game accounts for those kinds of choices. And I don't think we were able to necessarily include too many details about that in our coverage. But if you're, as much as you're able to share about broader picture, how the game is built to account for those choices and either reward you or make sure you face the consequences of your actions. Like, because some of these games, you have 3 decisions and they all kind of like lead to the same path, more or less. It's like a diverging towards the same direction. And I get the impression that is something you're accounting for. To what degree? I'm not sure how much you're able to share on that.
Do you want to take it, Matt, or I can jump on it?
Yeah, I mean, well, what I'll say on that is the way we look at our kind of scenarios are we try to figure out what are different approaches to this content. And how could that play out differently depending on how you tackle it? And then we open it up to the player to like explore within that, right? Sometimes that comes through kind of conversation choices. Sometimes that comes through scoping out the area and finding additional paths. We've introduced a ton of stuff that are like interactions in the world that apply to the different builds that you've constructed. So you might find, well, I've been doing engineering, so I can go in here and get into some of the security systems and turn them on, and that will actually change how things might play out in a certain area, and set up a different kind of landscape for the space so that you can engage in that space differently than you could have if you had never kind of opted into that kind of build. And then for major story choices, kind of we've just expanded the playground. I know we're not supposed to talk about a lot of story stuff, but we've got multiple factions. We've got a lot of different companions, and they all have their own kind of goals, motivations that, if you decide you're going to go against those major motivations or goals for factions or for companions, some pretty meaningful differences are going to be kind of observed by the player. Companions might not be okay with those types of choices that you make if you're philosophically like just on the other side from them. And that might lead to confrontations. You can sometimes use that to your advantage in certain situations. And it will certainly make kind of that story play out differently.
Cool. Yeah. On that note, I know that we weren't able to go in depth about companions. We saw a few of them in the in the flaws video and in the NRAY facility demo.
Right.
Teasing out some of the companions that we'll have, but of course, not too many details we can get into quite yet. But I found something interesting in the response to the videos. Is it kind of felt like people felt very strongly about companions in both directions, where they're like,
sure,
I don't need someone following me around. I'm going to solo this. Like, I don't have time to worry about companions, all that. It's like, all right, I get it. You want to like solo dolo. I'm kind of the same way too. And other people are like, hey, if there's going to be companions, they kind of need to matter to me. And I think that's like one aspect in which going halfway in either direction kind of might not be the most interesting move or whatever. So I'm curious if you're able to share a sort of how you feel about that response, and as much as you're able to talk about at this point with regards to people concerned about the role of companions in the Outer Worlds 2.
Sure. I mean, we could talk a little bit about that. So,
Sure.
I mean, of course, we definitely allow players to go lone wolf if that's their thing, and we even have some gameplay stuff that supports things like that. But for people that are bringing their companions along, there's a lot of cool elements in there. Again, the game is reacting to who you're bringing along. It's not like you're going to bring a companion from one faction that hates another faction, and they're not going to say anything about that and just be happy and kind of let you through. They're going to respond to that, and you're going to have to deal with that. The answer may be that you have to ditch that companion. The answer may be that you strong arm the other faction into doing something because you're strong enough to be able to go and do that. But all of these companions, since they're all especially tied to the different factions that exist and the major storylines that are going on, while they're not required, they do have integral parts to play in that, and really kind of uncovering what those factions are and how they interact with each other. So again, bringing companions along, I think enriches the experience. I think it's absolutely, in addition to the cool, fun gameplay stuff, I think you will learn a lot more about the different factions and how they all operate and how they, again, work or fight against each other. And again, you're getting a lot of cool things where, oh, I brought somebody along. Now I can get into a spot I normally wouldn't be able to get into because they can, like, hey, we're buddy or, whatever. Or the complete opposite of people telling you, F off, like you can't go here because of them. And then you get to, again, make a decision there of deciding whether that's important to you or not, and do you kick someone out, send them back to the ship, or eliminate them entirely in some cases. And again, these are all decisions for the player to make. We just want the companion choices to matter a lot. We do want that to be an important element. If people decide they want to go with companions.
Yeah, one thing that was important to us was making companions feel like they're their own characters and they have a place in this world. Some of the things Brandon was talking about, like, okay, some of them might be aligned with factions, and that might, be a little bit of a get out of jail free card with you in certain bad situations, which can be really cool. But also there might be places where, oh crap, you're going into that faction space. I'm not wanted there, right? And you might have some confrontations there where you can try and push it. Then you can try and, like, I don't know, how can I get this character into this space? And they might be like, there's no effing way that person is coming in here. You either have to ditch them or we're going to have a fight on our hands. And that might play out in a couple different ways, right? Similar, Brandon was talking about, there are places where you might go explore and the space will have different approaches. The space might have different areas in which you can interact that are only available if you have specific companions along for the ride. And that can be really fun kind of sense of discovery as well. When you go into a place and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I've been there before. I've done all of these things. And now when you come with a companion, oh crap, I didn't even know that this chunk of space was here. I didn't even know that there was more for me to engage with, which could be really fun and interesting. But really what we wanted was, we want these characters to feel like they are real characters. They have their own goals and motivations, and they're not just along for the ride with you as the player. Like, if you're going to work against their desires, then that's gonna have some consequences as well.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting stuff. Again, I don't want to get too deep into this because we're not really talking about the companion stuff.
Sure, yeah.
There's a companion early on where they have a problem, and they're like, man, I am really sick right now. And they want your help, and you can talk to them, and you're like, yep, I'll help you, and kind of join up for some of that help. And if you ignore them, things get very bad for them very quickly if you just kind of like push that off. And then you again, maybe they decide to leave, maybe something worse happens to them. But and they make it clear what's happening during the time. It's not a surprise when things kind of come to a head. But we wanted each of these companions, like Matt said, to have their own stories and have their own lives and really be a part of the world in that way. And the player is not forcing them to follow them throughout, but there's a partnership there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And just to say it, I mean, you don't have to take companions with you, and pretty much all characters can die in this game.
Most of them, yeah. Companions, I think there's probably a few companions. I think there might be one that you definitely can't kill. I think.
There's a
You're
bit of a
here
reason for
first,
that.
man.
It also depends on how you specify what dying is. But we'll leave it at that.
Whoa. Dog, you're asking the big questions, man.
Let's get philosophical.
No, and I think one of this isn't really a question, but I think Matt, you made a pretty big deal out of like having like the psychopath perk and the serial killer perk. I don't know if this is a good thing, but I think that resonated with some people. I think more people are going to try that out more so than I thought. But it is. I think that does, at least to me, it gave me the impression that like, oh, okay, like a lot of these systems that are being implemented this time around are kind of, the game is built to account for a lot of these different play styles or a lot of these things that you're being thrown at, rather than like, we just want to throw systems on top for the sake of it. So that's really cool to see so far with an early build. But I guess I have to ask, like, I know that you mentioned you're in the home stretch for the development cycle for the game, and you're gearing up for the Xbox showcase happening in June. So, yeah, like, what's left in terms of, finishing up the game? What kind of things are you looking at? Just like, what are...
Well, first, before we even go into that, we will. But because you brought up the kind of psychopath stuff,
all right,
which I am one. We'll go. I know, right?
I'd like to point out before you even talk, Matt, talking about psychopaths, there's an actual achievement in the game named after Matt. It's called Sing is King, and it has to do with dismembering people in the game. So that's a true psychopath right here that's talking to you
Matt,
about
I didn't know you was a freak.
What I'm saying is, the thing that we like in our style of games is giving a lot of player freedom. Right. That's why we do things like support. You can kill every NPC, not because we're encouraging you necessarily to do so, but we want you to have this feeling of freedom in this world. You can make different choices. Things can go bad. Things can go really good. And that's kind of where that comes from, right? Because we want to have it be open, be free, allow those choices to be meaningful. We want to key into those types of things. And things like Psychopath actually come out of seeing people try to test the boundaries of the game, right? I mean, it's natural. Well, both Brandon and I, initially come from QA, right? And so it's in our mind already to test the boundaries of games, see how far is it allowing us to go? How far off the beaten path can I go? How much can I lean into something, right? And so that kind of comes to the forefront when we think about game design as well. We want you to be able to play with these things and test them and see how far you can go. And we see opportunities for you to lean in and be like, oh man, we're observing people are doing this weird, wacky thing. Instead of cutting it off, why don't we support it in some way? That's really kind of how we view the types of games that we like to make.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah,
but to your question on the home stretch here,
what you all got left?
Go with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're fairly late in. We're polishing a lot of stuff. We're doing a lot of bug fixing. We're actually getting a lot of VO coming in right now, which really changes the feel of how the game comes together and feels to play through all the way through the game, right? That's like one of these big turning points for any of our games is when we start getting those kind of polished pieces of audio in and final VFX that make it really feel like, yeah, there was something missing here, but then it just comes together. We're at that home stretch right now where we're getting those little elements in place that make it feel finished. And then, we're getting ready to get this thing out to people. We're excited for them to actually play the game.
Sweet. So I guess kind of last question to take a step back. Looking at 2025, it's been a wild year for RPGs already, man. I mean, as we're discussing right now, this is the week that Oblivion Remastered just came out. I mean, Obsidian had put out Avowed back in February, and something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has also been out. My current game that I absolutely love, Clair Obscura Expedition 33, is also just coming out. Like, we're only 4 or 5 months into the year, and it's already packed with RPGs. And I imagine we're going to get more throughout the rest of the year. But just taking a step back and looking at the RPG landscape, this is something I talked about with Leonard a little bit in the video for that, was just taking a step back and looking at RPGs as a whole, and wherever the Outer Worlds 2 may land, how do you see this game fitting into kind of the wide array of RPGs that we've gotten, not just this year, but in recent years?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I like to say as it pertains to the Outer Worlds 2, and even Obsidian's general philosophy now, or kind of a change in direction a little bit, is we're really looking to what people loved from our games and other RPGs of the past. Again, that's why you're seeing a lot of CRPG influence in the things that we're bringing forward. The things with the more in-depth RPG systems, more to do, fun stuff just to go do. So I would say that again, we really tried to take that focus on things that we know we've done well and people really loved. And we're trying to double down and push that stuff forward in our games. And I think that the Outer Worlds 2 is, I'm hoping, is going to do that job. Looking at New Vegas, and we love the perks that were there, and we wanted even more, so we made even more perks there. But again, we looked backwards at that and said, that was cool, fun gameplay. And we didn't just take the thing outright and just move it forward. We said, all right, well, what did people love about that gameplay? And we kind of, remixed it or kind of push it in that direction, but keep the core thought of what that is. And we've kind of done that, up and down the game. When we're looking at this stuff, is really looking at some of those core RPG features, what it means to be an RPG, really distill that down and try to move that portion forward.
What I'll say is I will welcome more story-based, single-player role-playing games. So I'm happy to give another one to the community. I'm happy to see the new stuff coming out. I think there's a lot of awesome stuff. I think this is a great time for role-playing game fans. We're getting a lot of awesome stuff, and I'm just super excited to be able to be part of it.
Cool. Well, any last thoughts y'all want to share before I boot you off of this call?
I mean, no other to thank you guys for being able to share this stuff with the community. It's a dream opportunity to be able to work with the folks at IGN, to be able to show this to everybody, get the word out there, and also get the feedback from people of what they really love, and even the critical stuff, man. And we love that stuff too, because we love working on that, understanding that, and be able to explain to you guys the reasons that we made the decisions that we did. This is a cool opportunity, so thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. You've been awesome to just talk to. One of the things that we really enjoyed about having you at the studio in particular is, you're a freaking RPG nerd. You get it. You play them, you know them. You're part of our core. You're part of our tribe, and we really appreciated that. Seeing you come here, you know what you're talking about. You know these types of games, and you just like talking about them, just like us. We're just nerds too that want to talk about video games, and sometimes we get to be able to make some of those ideas real. So we love talking with people like you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, it opened my eyes to playing these games for many years. It's very different from actually talking to the people who make those systems happen, who make these stories pull it together. So it's been very insightful, and it's really funny because I've been playing Obsidian games for many years, right? And I didn't realize how much of old heads y'all were, because I mentioned I brought up Knights of the Old Republic 2, and both of y'all were like, "Woo, damn, that's a throwback."
We
right
just replayed it a month ago.
Yeah,
doing some research. It was cool, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been at Obsidian for almost 17 now. Brandon's been here for like 20.
That's right. Yeah. Like
we love these types of games. Is what we do.
Yeah,
we were both brought on during Neverwinter Nights too. I was a QA tester on the base game. Matt was a tester on one of the expansions, and I mean we've been at Obsidian for almost the entirety, except for actually KOTOR. That was the only one that we didn't work on.
Yeah. I remember being in middle school playing KOTOR too. So that's crazy. I guess to that point though, I think people are, I guess, curious about like who is Obsidian today. Like, there are certain names that get attached to it because I think early on in like video game industry, it was like, you hear about certain auteurs or like game directors and people get attached to specific names.
Sure.
People come and go and studios change and all that stuff. You try to keep on the same philosophy or evolve. But I think one of the things I learned also is that y'all have been there for a very long time. And I think people were like concerned, like, who is Obsidian anymore? Who's still there? And all those questions. So, I mean, y'all some old heads. So y'all been there for a long time.
I mean, it's funny. We ask ourselves who Obsidian is all the time too, right? Like, if you look at Obsidian's history, we've made a lot of different games across the board, right? I mean, Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, that was freaking awesome. I worked on South Park: The Stick of Truth, which was like so different, right? It was this weird amalgamation of things that made a really cool experience, but was very different than a lot of other Obsidian games, right? And the thing that we always look at is, well, what we want is player freedom, player expression. We want meaningful choice and consequence in our games, and that's kind of what we key into. And we look at how can we express that in as many different ways as we can. And I guess now, even across different subgenres, right, of role-playing games that we've been playing with.
Cool, yeah. Looking forward to the Outer Worlds 2 for sure. Like I said, I'm an RPG nerd, so I'm going to be sifting through this thing whenever I'm able to get hands-on with it. And I'm excited to see what y'all got for the Xbox showcase. Real talk, because like y'all said, I feel like I saw a lot of this game, but apparently I have not. So definitely
there's gonna be a lot of info in June. There's gonna be a lot of info coming through.
Yeah,
hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again once we get more information out there.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Love to just chat.
I'll probably have a ton more questions, man. So
we'll have a ton of answers.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. But until then, I will pay attention to that. I'll hit you all up sometime when we get the chance again. But yeah, Matt, Brandon, it's good catching up with y'all to look back on all the coverage that we put up on IGN. If for folks who may have not checked every video out, be sure to go back and look at all that stuff. We did deep dives on several different parts of the Outer Worlds too. If y'all pay attention to Unlock, me and Ryan have mentioned all this stuff time and time again. But it's been a ton of fun. It's been very eye-opening. So Brandon, Nat, thanks so much for joining me. And for
thanks, Michael.
Yeah, of course. And for all you, y'all take care too. And for all y'all watching Unlocked out there, thanks for watching this special segment that we were able to put together. But we'll go back to regular programming real soon. So, peace.
This episode of Unlocked is hosted by me, Ryan McCaffrey, alongside Michael Hyman, Miranda Sanchez, produced by Tayo Oyekin. Technical production is by Marian Franzen and Amir Rakib. Technical direction and editing are handled by Tayo. Graphic design is by Justin Vachon. Unlocked is an IGN production and part of the Geek Media Network. And hey, if you also love your PlayStation and your Nintendo, don't miss our other platform-centric podcasts. Those would be Beyond and NVC, respectively. Check them out, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.